This video is a part of the A to Z series of Python language where I go through all the built-in functions of Python starting with letter B with the description of how to use them. The imported library functions and classes are written using these built-in functions only, so you can consider this as a foundation of the entire Python language. If you have landed directly on this video, you can check out the entire playlist in the iCard above or through the link in the description. Otherwise, watch this video till the end as I will also give real project examples where these functions might be useful wherever I can. My name is Aditya Shenoy from Brainy where I make programming simple and fun. YouTube statistics show that a small percentage of you who watch my videos are actually subscribed to this channel, so if you end up liking this video, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can always change your mind in future. The first function is the bin function. This function takes one parameter. If we pass an integer value to this function, it returns a binary string representation of this number. But what will happen if we don't pass an integer value to this function? For that, let's create a custom class, my class def init self self.string is string. And now if I pass a object of this class inside this bin function, it will lead to a type error. My class object cannot be interpreted as an integer. So Python does not understand how to convert this object to an integer object so that it can convert it to a binary representation. So for that, we need to tell Python how to convert this object to a integer object. For that, we need to define the index function like this, and you can write the logic based on your application. For this simple example, I will just return the length of the self.string. And now if I run the code, it will give me 0b110. This 0b is a prefix that indicates that this number is not decimal and it is in binary, but 110 is the binary representation of 6 and this string is of 6 length. So it has been converted to integer and then this integer 6 has been represented in binary string representation. Binary function can be used for various bit manipulation programs which are a part of competitive programming and company tests and interviews as well. So you shall know this function very well. The next function is the bool function. This function takes 0 or 1 parameters. If we don't pass any parameters to this bool function, it will return false. That is the default value of a boolean. And if we pass a numeric value, that is an integer or a float, to this function, it will return false if it is 0 or true for all non-zero values. Bool 0 and bool any non-zero number, and it will return false for 0 and true for any non-zero numbers. If we pass a string to this bool function, it will return false for empty strings and true for non-empty strings, like this. Similarly, if we pass an empty list, it will return false, and if we pass a non-empty list like this, it will return true. This iterable need not be only lists, it can be tuples or any other iterables, but it should not be empty. This function can be used inside the if or while condition, which can reduce the amount of code a lot. The next function is the breakpoint function. It does not take any parameter. This function is used for debugging purposes. Whenever this function is called, it will stop the execution of the program and open an interactive window where you can query local or global variables to debug the state of variables. For this particular example, I will use a py file instead of a notebook file because for some reason this breakpoint function is not working properly in my notebook, but the code will remain same. So I will create a bunch of variables. Name is Brainy things, and I will add a breakpoint function over here, and I will initialize some more variables. Platform is YouTube, author is Aditya, language is Python. And if I run this code, the execution will stop at platform equal to YouTube. Now you can see that it is just after the breakpoint function, and even though the arrow states that this is the current line, this current line has not been executed. So if we query here the name variable, it will state Brainy things. That is, this variable was defined before the breakpoint function was called. But if I try to query platform, it will give me a name error. Name platform is not defined because this line has not been executed yet. So I have debugged all my variables before breakpoint. Now I need to continue my execution. To just run one line, we can use n and press enter. Now as you can see, the current line has become author equal to Aditya. That means this line should have been executed. Now I can query platform and it will give me YouTube. But what if you have completed all your debugging tasks and you just need to complete the program? And suppose you have hundreds of lines of code, so you will not press n enter continuously. To stop the breakpoint debugging, you can press C to continue the execution and press enter, and it will run all the lines after the breakpoint until the end of file is reached, like this, like in this condition, or another breakpoint function is called. This function is useful for debugging, but using print statements for debugging is much more straightforward than this. But you can still use this breakpoint function for detailed debugging purposes. If you are finding this video useful, please click that like button. It takes a lot of efforts to create videos like this. The next function is the byte array. It is a mutable sequence of integers of 8 bits, that is a byte size. Therefore, the range of integers of this byte array sequence is 0 to 255. If we pass a string to this function, say Aditya, also we need to pass the encoding of this string. I will pass UTF-8. This function will return me the bytes representation of the string passed. Byte array, byte string, Aditya. Nothing so special about this. Instead, if I pass some non-ASCII character, in this case I am passing my name in Devanagari script, it will give me a sequence of bytes. It will give me a sequence of bytes. This /x indicates that this number preceding the \x is in hexadecimal format, and each hexadecimal number consists of 4 bits, and thus two 4-bit numbers constitutes of a 8-bit number, that is a byte, and thus it is called as byte array. You can also pass a list of integers falling in the 0 to 255 range, like this. I will pass a list of say 65, 66, 67. And if I run this code, you can see that it has been converted to a string ABC. This is because 65, 66 and 67 are the ASCII code of capital A, capital B and capital C respectively. You can decode this byte array sequence back to the string representation by using decode by passing the encoding, that is UTF-8, and it will return me a string ABC. This use case is very useful when you have a bunch of ASCII values and you need to convert these sequence of ASCII values to its string representation like this. If you pass a single integer like this, it will initialize a byte array of that size, that is 5 bytes, each initialized as 0. And if you don't pass any parameter to this function, it will return an empty byte array. You can use this function where you want to manipulate strings in the byte level. Byte array is mutable and hence you can alter the sequences by adding or deleting the byte sequences. The next function is the bytes function. This is exactly the same as byte array, but it is immutable, meaning that you cannot add or delete byte elements from this object, which you can do in byte array. So if I convert all byte array to bytes, the output will remain almost the same. Just the class that it belongs will change to byte array to bytes. Like this. This immutable sequence can be used in bit level cryptography and many more applications. So these were the built-in functions that start with letter B. If you ended up liking this video, please press that like button, comment any feedbacks that you have for this video or this channel, share this video with your friends. The code that I write in all my videos of this channel is available in my GitHub profile, whose link is in the description. You can connect to me via LinkedIn, whose link is again in the description. And I will see you in the next video.